What's good, y'all? Welcome back. Welcome back. Happy Saturday. Happy Saturday. Yeah. It's just Saturday. Vibes are good. It's the weekend. Everybody's relaxing. Everybody's chilling. I hope you guys are enjoying guys Saturday, Sunday, whatever time it is for you guys. I've wanted to do a video like this in a long time. There should be two videos for you guys today as well. But sprint races. Now I am going to keep the buck. I'm going to keep honest with you guys. I've never really knew what sprint races were, or like what was the purpose of sprint races. Because I remember going back, because I remember when K-Mag got pulled, and I was like, last year, correct? I was like, oh my god, like K-Mag's got pulled, like at the start of the I think it's a Brazilian Grand Prix, and then I find out it's just for the sprint race. So I'm like, okay, what the hell? Like, what are the point of these sprint races? Now, at first I was thinking sprint, like actually, like the TV provider. I'm sorry, the telephone, the telephone provider, AT&T, Verizon, and stuff like that. You guys know, yeah. But anyway, I was just like, what is this? So we are finna check it out. We are finna see what everything I need to know. Yes, me needs to know about sprint races. Hope you guys enjoy the video. Don't forget to start the video and also sub as well if you are new to the channel. That's enough of me talking, chit-chatting. Let's just start.
Teams have offered their broad support for the introduction of a sprint race experiment this year, which could be rolled out at 3 Grand Prix during the 2021 season. After running effectively the same weekend format since knockout qualifying was introduced in 2006, with the exception of elimination qualifying's 2-race stint in 2016 and the 2-day weekend at Imola last year, F1 is finally on the cusp of a major change in approach. The idea is to overhaul the traditional weekend format, practice on Friday, qualifying on Saturday, and the race on Sunday. It's been that way for years. Under this plan, qualifying will be shifted to Friday. That will then decide the grid for a sprint race on Saturday. This sprint race will then decide the starting order for the main Grand Prix on Sunday. For those who don't know, a sprint race is basically the same as a normal F1 race, but condensed, with a shorter distance of 100 kilometers and will take a maximum of 1 hour to complete. F1's planned trial of sprint races is likely to be at the Canadian, Italian.
So it's basically like a time trial, basically. But so if I'm in F1, right, and I'm qualifying for the actual race, I'm not even really qualifying for the actual race. I'm qualifying for the sprint race, and then I need to perform at the sprint race to have a starting spot at the actual race. Now, I can see both sides of it. I can see a positive. Well, one way I can see as it being good is, hey, let me qualify for the sprint race. Let me actually do good. So hopefully I can get like P2 at the starting grid at the sprint race, perform well there, finish like around P2, P3, probably even P1. So bam, when it gets to the official race, I'm good. I'm starting out P1, we can go from there. But at the same time, just like I just want but then that devil's advocate is just like, can I just qualify for just the actual race? Like, so you want me to qualify for a sprint race, and then basically, I guess not qualify, but perform there to get, I just want this race. Like, let me just qualify for the race on Sunday and go from there. Like,
Brazilian
but like I said, I can see both sides.
Locations are still to be finalised. Formula One has never officially run a sprint race before, but there has been talk of changing the format for a long time. Teams have held back the introduction of other concepts, such as a reverse grid, where the fastest drivers from qualifying would start at the back of the field. However, in Formula 2, the sprint race has long been...
Hey, if they ever did that, Latifi would have like freaking... Latifi would be starting P1 every time. Shout out to my boy Latifi. Goat Tofi. The GOAT. Like, but hey, this is my suggestion. I do think we should have a sprint race. Not the actual race, but I think we should have a sprint race of whoever qualifies the slowest should start up front. At the same time, there are going to be some cars who kind of dilly-daddle, who don't want to, who are not, driving their fast, stuff like that. But hey, I'm all for that for a sprint race, man. I'm all for that. Chaz
on
is
Sunday morning,
Chaz's thoughts.
and at
Chaz's
120
thoughts.
kilometers long, is 50 kilometers shorter than the main event
So
feature
what they
race
do?
on Saturday.
Cut out some
From 2021, there'll be 2 sprint races per weekend in Formula 2 and
34
Formula 3,
laps.
taking place on Saturdays. The tightrope between entertainment and gimmicks was one F1 always has to tread carefully, but new CEO Stefano Domenicali quickly made his feelings clear, saying earlier this month that any plans for a reverse grid were over.
Oh,
Sprint races were on
boo.
the table for 2021.
That's
A
lame.
recent F1 Commission meeting saw teams discuss the plans, and unlike the reverse grid proposal, everybody was on board. A new working group is being formed as we speak, and will aim to get a full plan in place soon, so the final decision can be made before the new season begins. Whilst initial approval from all of the teams is a massive step forward for F1, there are some big questions that still need to be answered. One of those is what status the sprint race winner would hold in the record books. Would they have the official pole position for the Grand Prix, or would that still be reserved for the fastest driver in qualifying? And could we
That's a very good point. Like if Lewis won a sprint race, does that count as like an official win? That's a very good point. I didn't like think about that, guys and girls. I didn't think about
call a
that,
sprint
man.
race victor an official race winner?
Yeah,
It's a
exactly.
technicality that F1 will need to clarify, and not just for the sake of the record books. Driver contracts often centre around the number of races completed, as well as dealing in official results and wins. So there must be a clear definition from a legal standpoint what constitutes a race. There will also need to be clarity on how the addition of sprint races impacts aspects such as tyre usage and part life. A tyre solution appears simple, given the teams will save sets with just 1 practice session instead of 3. On the parts front, teams have strict limits on how many power unit components they can use each season. But sprint races would undoubtedly add to the stresses placed on these parts, and of course, any spares from extra damage that might come from more wheel-to-wheel action. There will also be questions over matters such as grid penalties, and whether or not they could be served in a sprint race instead of a Grand Prix. The points and prize money system also needs to be clarified. The awarding of points would add some extra spice to the sprint races, and leave drivers really weighing up the risk and reward of trying to fight up the order.
Exactly.
Given the distance is set to be 1/3 of a regular Grand Prix, awarding points at a similar weighting would seem logical, but this still needs to be determined, and may be controversial to some fans. Another big question surrounds race selection. Monza was an obvious pick, given its high-speed nature and chances to overtake, with last year's incredible race won by Pierre Gasly being the trigger for fresh talks over new format changes.
No, I don't really watch sprint races. I don't really care for sprint races personally. But some of the stuff that he has mentioned is pretty, contract negotiation clauses, race wins, you know what I mean? Even grid penalties. So yeah, I'm not really sure how personally how it is now. Like I say, I don't really watch it. Sprint races, I just watch the race. And we just watch the race, chat. We just watch the race. That's it. But I mean, 3 tracks isn't bad. It's cool. It's cool.
Interlagos and Montreal are both logical picks. Again, their layouts encourage overtaking, but there will inevitably be questions over their viability this year, given that neither race happened in 2020. It does show the confidence that F1 has in this year's current schedule, but should any of the 3 races be dropped, would another pick up the mantle and hold a sprint
Shout out
race
to
instead?
Motorsport as well.
Sprint races may still concern some hardcore purist fans, but it is a gentle step that shouldn't undermine F1's DNA. The quickest
DNA,
teams
the
won't face
DNA.
any challenges of succeeding, which was what many feared with reverse grids. One valid concern would be what the presence of another race in the weekend format does for the main Grand Prix itself, and whether it would take any sheen off the Sunday event. But the annual Macau Grand
Good
Prix,
point.
the Formula 3 event, has run a sprint race format with its own qualification race on Saturdays, and it only served to add to the entertainment and variety of the weekend. The beauty of the sprint race experiment for F1 this year is that it could be rolled back quite easily if needed. If it turns out that sprint races were actually quite a bad idea, the fact they were only run at a handful of events makes it easy to remove. And the opposite is also true. If they prove to be a roaring success, then it can be expanded very easily. With the teams provisionally on board for a trial of sprint races in F1 this year, the biggest hurdle has already been overcome. F1's new working group will iron out the details in the coming weeks, but once clarity arrives, it should give another reason to get excited for the 2021 season and has to be considered an impressive early success in Stefano Domenicali's leadership of Formula 1. What do you think of the idea of sprint races in F1? Should the sport keep its traditional Saturday qualifying, or will things be better with action spread out over 3 days? Let us know what you think in the comments below.
I personally don't really mind. Like I said, I don't watch sprint races, but I don't really mind. I think some of this stuff can get properly fixed, or just have more clarification over certain things. But like I think it's like a 2-year video, so a lot of stuff has probably already has been clarified. But I think, like, personally, just for me, like, if I'm qualifying on a Friday just for the sprint race, and then if I don't do good in the sprint race, it messes up my position at the Grand Prix, even though I qualify good. It's kind of like, damn, like, you know what I mean? Like, but I understand it. You guys, let me know you guys thoughts about that as well in the comments down below. Are you guys fans of sprint races, man? Let me know. Anyway, stay safe, stay amazing. Love you guys and girls. Talk to you guys later, man. Peace.